Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a follow-up video for the Smite and Frozen Legion Inquisitor, which at this stage is pretty much done with most of the endgame that I was going to put it through, and made a few updates and all that, and figured I'd start talking about those. So as you can see, the Frozen Legion playstyle is a bit awkward, a bit of a weird one, and it does carry itself to have some pretty good single target. I think my build in the end, on average, hits for maybe like 15 to 20 million on a really good Frozen Legion button press. So there's no real DPS to be measuring, it's just the average damage that you throw out when you press the button. And I think it can go higher. On this build, if we put in another 10 to 20 divines or something, it might go up by 50%, for example, 50% more. And I think that if you went more of a two-hander, maybe a staff and a really good build, you're going to probably see some people just straight up one-shotting a lot of the endgame bosses out there. This build here, however, though, it's probably something like 5 divines invested overall worth of stuff, and it gets me somewhere to the point where I was happy with the skill itself and using Smite as well. I mentioned in the previous video that Frost Breath is what I was probably going to be using for endgame and try it out for clearing as well. To begin with, when I swapped it in, it is actually very quite slow, so I had to also do some work in fixing attack speed on the build. Take a couple of passives, get a dual socket with some attack speed, run a Blood Rage, and reconfigure flasks to have some more attack speed, stuff like that. If you put a Frost Breath on this build early on without doing any of that, it's going to feel like a pretty bad playstyle, because the Smite is going to be very slow and your Frozen Legion doesn't really get affected by it, but the Smite and your jumping around is going to be extremely kind of janky, and you're going to be taking a lot of damage before things even, before you get a chance to hit things. They get a pretty good chance to get their attacks off. So you've got to make sure you are fixing some attack speed if you're going to run a Frost Breath. That said, for the most part, I was only using it for bosses and then mapping with a scepter that I made myself. I think it's totally fine to be using a Frost Breath full time. I just do encourage you to fix some attack speed for that. It's really hard to beat damage wise though. Compared to a regular scepter like I was doing, Frost Breath is going to hit much harder, and it's going to be pretty reliable as well. So it's good that basically a really cheap, really accessible weapon can be our endgame weapon, but once again, just make sure you're fixing some of the attack speed on it, because you'll just have a much better time once you've fixed some attack speed. Other than that, the build went well enough, and Vile Smite was completely carrying clear. Occasionally Smite would do some damage too, but you could see that in my gloves, the gloves were corrupted, and getting the colors to get a crit strike gem on the Smite was really difficult, so I chose not to, and basically my Smite didn't have a crit gem when I wanted it to. If you can, you should probably use a crit gem for your Smite, unlike how I did, because it will make things a bit more consistent. And other than that, the main thing I'd probably want to comment on is Replica Abyssus is still somewhat uncomfortable. So I did my best to kind of counteract it with some max res, as well as Pantheons. And yeah, look, we did counter it. It definitely isn't as bad as just a raw Replica Abyssus, but that increased early damage taken, there is a lot of early damage out there. It is a much bigger problem to have the Replica Abyssus than a regular Abyssus across the board. It wasn't getting me in trouble too often, but it's definitely going to cause some unpleasantries if you're not fully in tune with monster mechanics and all of that sort of shit. So you could easily also just do regular Abyssus instead of the Replica. It's a bit less damage, and it's a lot easier to fix up physical damage taken with Determination, or stacking a bit more armor, some endurance charges, some phys damage reduction, Determination Watcher's Eye, all that kind of stuff. But that said, I stuck with the replica business. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Hit level 94 through mapping. You can go pretty quick. I did take a fairly long time to go from 93 to 94 because I was doing some questionable maps prior to almost leveling a few times, so just some pretty poor choices on my behalf, but hit 94 and it's still okay. Like, not too many things are going to be ruining your life with the replica business, but it's a fair warning. Increased early damage taken does hurt. So other than that, yeah, the character I thought was pretty good. I just do encourage that you fix the defensive problems, the offensive attack speed, and then you should have a pretty good time with the build. You should also do your best to get almost 100% crit chance. And then the only other thing to mention is how Frost Legion itself behaves, Frozen Legion. It can be annoying, so the fact that there is a lot of situations where mobs are like near a wall or near a pillar or some shit, and that means that you'll only throw out, let's say, 2 Frozen Legions, sometimes maybe 4, can be pretty frustrating. In a lot of situations, these bosses are always out in the open and it's not a big deal, or the enemies you're fighting, but in plenty of situations you just can't do anything about the fact that your build is putting out suboptimal damage. And for that, Frozen Legion can be a bit annoying, but overall it's still a very cool concept, still a very nice skill. It's just really weird to build around given that it's a spell and an attack and all of that. But once you figure it out, I think it has its place in the game, and it's definitely something that can be a lot of fun. So with that said, I'm just going to leave you with a regular Maven. I didn't take on any Ubers because that's just not a good idea for a melee build that's a bit cheap. But yeah, regular Maven. Took on all the other like endgame regular bosses as well. But this is the entire fight for this one. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time. So I'm kind of scared. I don't honestly know how this goes or what I'm doing. It's an issue, right? Not too bad. Shocking for full. That's good. One shot Maven? No. Took like fucking 4 shots. I'd call that pretty far from one shot. Not bad. Dude, guy with his fucking laser beams. No! That thing's not fair, man! The thing does 1 trillion damage with the degen. 1 trillion.
My irritation is growing. This will not be an escape.
Not fair, Smash. Smash. But especially Smash. I'm gonna try Blood Stance this time. I've been using Sand Stance because I feel like I'm okay. I was thinking I needed the AoE more, but it seems like you can get away without it. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Stop resisting.
I thought maybe I needed the AoE for good overlap on Frozen Legion. Seems okay without it.
Punishment inescapable.
No, not that guy again. Stop.
Arrogant toy. Take this. A cascade of pain. It will not be an escape.
What does Maven want from me? Do I have to be hit by Maven's punishment while I'm killing her? Part of a challenge?
A cascade of pain. Stand.
Gonna wait for it to teleport, I think. And then go absolutely ham. There it is.
This. Stand still.
While being affected by Maven's valid. Okay, we can do that another time. Yay, a shitty belt.
Nomad. You have proved
And a
your
void stone.